Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Tech Magic, the podcast where we dive deep into technology and figure out if something is the future or just a fad. This is your host, Cathy Hackl. I'm a tech and gaming executive at Journey and also a futurist. And I am joined by my amazing guest co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I have to tell you, our last episode, by far my favorite. Amazing. Well received. Like, you and I had a blast. But folks did too. Yeah, I had people message me like, you guys are having so much fun. I'm having fun along with you. You've heard some feedback too, right? What are folks telling you?
Oh, it's all been positive. Yeah, it's all been positive. And I'd like to keep it that way. But yeah, it's been really good. We're on episode 5. I mean, that feels pretty deep into the season at this point. That's pretty incredible. This is your second season, and we're halfway through this one. So like,
it's actually my third season. So I had 2 seasons of metaverse marketing, and then we changed it up. So this is like season 3, but it's really season 1. So I don't know.
It's starting to get into Star Wars territory of like what episode, season,
prequel, sequel. I don't know. I don't know. So anyway, how have been? How have you been the last couple of days? What's on your mind?
I had a great weekend. We're fully into the fall weather here, and it's just continued to hold on, which has been nice. We spent a lot of time with some friends. We went over to our neighbor's place. They had a little like neighborhood get together, which I think is like a nice reminder of how things used to be, and now we're kind of getting back into that swing. It's taken a little while for things to like thaw out in Portland, Oregon, and people are starting to hang out and do stuff, which is probably crazy for people listening on the East Coast, but I don't know. It's taken a little bit longer for people to kind of get back together over here. But all of our neighbors got together and we kind of had a little cocktail party or whatever you want to call it. But my neighbor is really into like music, as am I, and has just this incredible record collection. And we immediately started, half of the night was talking about the new Beatles final song. And I throw final with a question mark at the end because you just don't know.
You don't know, right?
You don't know. But it was just this really interesting thing that has occurred last week. For those who don't know, the Beatles have released their final song now and then. And it was only capable because of the technology finally allowed for it to happen. And we kind of touched on this a few episodes ago when we started talking about like Robin Williams and his voice being reused, being, leveraged by AI to bring back Genie from Aladdin, and how people felt about that, especially with Robin Williams being passed away. And what I really appreciated, if you haven't listened to it, go check out that song, because I think it is a beautiful song.
It's beautiful. You sent it to me and I was like blown away. And tell folks a little bit more, like, this is like new territory. The song's doing pretty good on the charts, as I understand.
As it should. It's just genuinely a good song. So what I didn't know, and there was a really awesome little mini documentary that they released before they released the song. And then after they released the song, they released the music video. So they did it over like the course of like 3 days. But doing the mini documentary, it's about 15 minutes online. And you can see it on like the Beatles YouTube channel, brought in the full story of like, no, we did not use AI to recreate John Lennon's voice to write new Beatles music. That's not what this was. Evidently, this was based off of tapes that Yoko had of John in his home piano writing songs, and just this old 70s mono tape. So it didn't sound great. And in 1995, the band got a hold of these tapes and said, we really like this song. We're going to try and finish this song out. So George, Paul, and Ringo go into the studio. And this is right early when computers started getting involved into recording studios. And they tried to make it happen. And it just wasn't feasible at the time. So they had John's voice with a piano, which was all mixed on a single mono tape, which is at the time impossible to separate. And then they had all of these attempts from the other three in 1995 in a professional studio where it was recorded. And evidently, as they worked on the documentary that's on Disney Plus right now about the Beatles, they realized like, the technology had progressed well enough to actually separate these vocals and like make these better. Using machine learning. And so they use that machine learning to separate those vocals and get John's vocal out of it. And so now they've got two members who are passed. You have George and John who are gone, and Paul and Ringo got together and said, they really wanted to finish this song, and they knew George would have signed off. And in 1995, they had come to terms that John would have wanted to sign off. So they were able to take a mixture of John's original vocals on this tape, separated, and they sound amazing.
That is so crazy,
George's
right?
work.
It's eerie.
It's
like
haunting.
When I listened to it, I was like, oh my gosh, goosebumps.
It's beautifully haunting. And then they had George's work from 1995 from that studio session. And then they were able to go into a new studio with Paul and Ringo and finish the song. And it is a gorgeous song. And I read a review that really hit the nail on the head because they made a comment of Paul's voice. I mean, he's older now, so he sounds older. And there's this bit of Paul's voice that just doesn't sound like young Paul, which of course it wouldn't. And so in that review, they made this comment of, that's why this is a perfect song, because you've got Now and Then, right? You've got Now, which is Paul's older voice, and then, which is John's younger voice, right? And it's just like this perfect combination.
Yeah.
And so then they released the music video, and I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see. I
haven't seen the music video. I heard the song. I need to sit down and watch it.
The music video brings it all home. Because they go in and they digitally remaster old Beatles music and they bring the Beatles in together, and they don't try to like fake as if John were older, right? So you've got them in, Sgt. Pepper costumes alongside old George and Ringo in the studio. It's beautiful. It's goofy.
I wonder if I'm going to get like Avatar, the ABBA Avatar show, if I'm going to get those vibes.
I don't know. It's what I do love is it's beautiful, but it's goofy. Like they bring the younger, youthful, like weird, goofy side
funny,
of the Beatles, into it, and it's not like this is something we want you to tear up over. Although
I'm sure plenty of people did. I mean, like I said, I got goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh.
So we got into the whole conversation about this over our cocktail party this weekend, and it got deep. As we are able to go back and remaster music that never had a chance to be released. I don't want to say never was meant to be released, but never had a chance to be released. I think it's just going to bring for a continuation of music for a while. Anyways, that was my weekend. How was yours?
Just that, deep conversation about bringing, John Lennon back to life via music. But okay. No, my weekend was great. Very relaxing. We don't have our fall neighbors get together till next weekend. So that'll be ours. Spent a lot of time with my kids. There was a really interesting reporting that was done by NPR on how you should play video games with your kids. I sent it to you. We'll include a link, and it got me thinking a lot about the time I spend with my kids playing with them and having fun and making memories and everything. So I actually decided this Sunday after just thinking about that, I was like, we were all kind of hanging out at the house and they were bored. And I was like, guys, let's just play Mario Kart. And we played some Mario Kart. It was fun. I am such a bad Mario Kart player. Like, I'll be honest, I suck at it. I'm bad. But my kids enjoy that I'm so bad. Because even my 7-year-old beats me. It's crazy. I like gaming. I'd never said I'm good at it. Okay.
That is what's brilliant about Mario Kart is it naturally levels the playing field in some ways, right? Like the people in the back always get the best, power pickups and red turtle shells and things that they can play. I think Mario Kart might be one of the best balanced video games for a family to play together.
We have such a good time when we do it. And of course, they make fun of me and then I'm like, I'm going to be, it was so funny. It was fun. But yeah, anyone listen to this, I urge you to kind of spend time with your kids. There's many activities you can do, but if they enjoy gaming, play with them. Like get in there, play with them. Like this is actually fun. Even if you're not like a gamer family, just, spend some time with them. I think some of the biggest education I ever got in understanding Generation Alpha and kind of gaming as culture has been playing with them, inside Roblox, or they're too young for Fortnite just yet. And we have some news about Fortnite. I'm going to go into it in a second, but I will tell you that we have a correction. We have to make a correction. This is coming from the weekend. I sat down and I was talking to my daughter, and I was talking to my daughter and a couple of her friends that were over. They're, middle schoolers. And I was saying, on the podcast, I talked about the dance and how you guys were dancing to Soulja Boy's Superman. And my daughter's like, Mom, that's not the name of the song. So we have to issue a correction, okay? For any Soulja Boy fans out there, it is not called Superman. It is called Crank That, okay?
Technically, yes, that is right. That is right.
So at that moment, I'm like, are you serious? I said to my daughter, and then, of course, I go to Alexa and I said, Alexa, can you play Crank That by Soulja Boy? And obviously it started playing, what I call the Superman song. So anyway, issuing a correction. It is
weird though, right? But like, that's weird that a middle schooler knew the correct name of the song more than the people who like lived through it.
I know, which is weird. I was like, yeah, okay. But all her friends were like, yeah, that's the name of the song. How did you not know that, Mrs. Hackl? I don't know. That was, my weekend is always around the kids and stuff. But I am in New York. I flew last night. I'm in the wonderful Conrad Hotel in Midtown, waiting in about 3 hours. I've got a glam squad kind of showing up. I've got hair and makeup and my wardrobe kind of showing up because I have to go to the Oscars of Fashion for the CFDA Awards. I'm so excited. I can't tell you, Lee. Like, I am thrilled. Like, Anne Hathaway is hosting, and she's going to be on stage at some point with Anna Wintour, and we're going to get serious Devil Wears Prada memes this week. I cannot wait. And then Serena Williams is getting honored as a fashion icon. She's the first athlete. We're going to talk a little bit about sports as well in the podcast. But I'm just, I don't know. I'm just super thrilled. I'll have a lot to share, I think, for episode 6.
Do you think you're going to see anything that dives even close into the wearable technology space here?
Ooh, that would be a statement if someone had a humane AI pin on them on the red carpet. We might. Who knows? I mean,
we've seen like the color changing clothes with the stuff that Adobe's been playing with. I don't expect to see that there. Humane Pen is out there. Wearable headwear is out there. I'm just curious, at what point does that really dive into these type of like fashion shows?
I don't know. I mean, Serena is married to Alexis Ohanian, so he's a tech, he's a super techie, obviously. I'm, full disclosure, I'm an LP in his fund. But yeah, I mean, maybe he shows up with it. I don't know. Let me get back to you. I mean, I hadn't thought about the tech. I was just so focused on the fashion, to be honest. And I'm like geeking out. Ooh, okay, this is going to be exciting. So anyway, that's kind of like my last couple
Full
of days.
report next week.
Yeah, so we'll have more next week. All right, let's start with some fad or future. I'll start with this one. Huge last couple of days for Fortnite. Okay, so congratulations, Fortnite. Epic Games crushing it. Here's what happened over the weekend. They launched their new they call it seasons. Is it the season? I can't remember, but they launched kind of an OG version of Fortnite. Okay, and everyone was thrilled about it because they've included some of the things from the original season. And basically, they got insane numbers. This is how crazy it got. So this is a post on LinkedIn from Paul Doyle, head of corporate strategy at Epic Games. And Epic Games also tweeted about this. Saturday was the biggest day in Fortnite's history, with over 44.7 million players jumping in and 102 million hours of play. That's huge. Those numbers are amazing. I mean, everyone's raving about Fortnite kind of coming back to its roots. Nostalgia is reigning very strong here. It's cool because it's engaging the younger players that are just coming in and maybe weren't part of the initial, seasons. And now kind of the people that have been playing for a long time. So I even posted about it on Instagram and asked people if they wanted to join my Fortnite squad because my kids, they don't play Fortnite and they think I'm not cool enough to be in their squad when they have one. So people on Instagram were very nice saying, yes, I'll join your squad. But crazy numbers for Fortnite. Congratulations, Epic Games.
That's incredible. And it's not too surprising, right? Because there is this... Well, one, it's surprising that Fortnite is old enough to have throwback levels and content, right? Like that in and of itself makes me feel a little old. But we've kind of hit this point in gaming where the game quality is at a point where like we're not pining for better graphics in many ways. But we can look back and go, wow, some of those games were really good. Nintendo's been doing this a ton where they've been remastering old games that came out when I was a kid and they're releasing them at full price. Yeah. And now people are playing them over again. I mean, November 17th, Mario RPG comes out. This was a combination project back in 1995 with Square Enix, who did the Mana series and all of these other, really popular RPGs. And they've never re-released that game. I don't know why, but like since 1995, that game's just not. I think it was on. You could get it as the original, but they never like remade it, and now they're remaking it, and it's going to do well. And the goal is, I hope that they stay faithful to it. Like this is what all the reviews are like. Please let's stay faithful to the original game here. So when you see something like Fortnite go back to what made Fortnite popular in the first place, I could see that formula working, right? Yeah. It worked the first time. Why not bring it back? And you do kind of have to treat it like the McRib a little bit, right? Because it can, if you just leave it on the menu.
Yeah, it'll get, yeah. Oh, goodness.
It's the Shamrock Shake of video game, all right? Like, you can only do it for so long. And it's like, if it's on the menu forever, I don't really want it.
Yeah. It's a lot of hashtag Fortnite OG. This is really interesting. I love this combination. Some folks have been on TikTok. It's kind of a trend on TikTok of people posting pictures of themselves when they started playing Fortnite. So, like, the original Fortnite and showing how they look now. So like, now versus then kind of, original Fortnite.
How it started, how it's going.
Exactly. Yeah. So very nostalgic. And also apparently it's also translating into strong UEFN numbers as well. So,
I could see that. So yeah. And they needed to boost that a little bit because I'm surprised. I'm sure someone was doing some of the old maps and things like that in UEFN. So
Fortnite Creative also seeing kind of an impact, but yeah, just congratulations, Epic Games. Like, great, well done. Just very exciting numbers. So like people that are, that's the thing. I always go back to this, like gaming is such a massive industry and it deserves more attention, deserves more respect. Gaming is culture. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it when people, when I talk to executives in a lot of brands, I'm just like, don't you see? Don't these numbers are amazing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's the world and games have always been part of the world, right? Like this isn't new. This is just, we moved them to a screen and of course that would make logical sense. And a lot of those people who say, oh, I don't understand gaming, they sunk a lot of hours into like Angry Birds on their mobile phone. They're just not thinking about gaming in a holistic sense. I think,
Yeah. So gaming, once again, crushing it. So future or fad, you think bringing nostalgia, let's say this, bringing nostalgia back into gaming, is that future? Yeah. I'm with
future. I mean, I've made this argument with Tetris for years, right? Like they're going to keep making Tetris games because the core mechanic of Tetris is genius, and they'll keep bringing it back. It's why Mario is my age right now.
Oh goodness, 23. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
That reminds me of Call of Duty turning 20, but yes. So interesting stuff also, like we've talked about the Five Nights at Freddy's, FNAF, crushed it at the box office. They did amazing the first weekend. They're also doing good, not as great, but second weekend, but still crushing it.
Post-Halloween.
It's post-Halloween. So, Freddy Fazbear versus Freddy Krueger. So Freddy Fazbear kind of Halloween it was. But yeah, doing great. I mean, proving how powerful gaming is, and not just, I think I read something that it's like the second biggest video game opening for a movie after Mario, after Super Mario Brothers. So
yeah. I take issue with that because technically, and I know what they mean, but technically Barbie had some video games, has a lot of video games.
Okay.
So you still got to hand it over to Barbie on that one a little bit. Now, what they mean is based on a video game. I'll all right, Ken. Allow it.
You got it.
I'm just kidding.
So yeah, okay, we've got that. Let's talk a little bit about some of the news that are coming out around tech and sports. And I'll kind of I'll kind of just mention a little bit why we're going into this territory, because this is not a sports podcast. Obviously, but there's a lot of technology and a lot of things, a lot of changes, I think, happening in the sports side of the house, right? So just for reference, my son plays in a flag football league. So flag football, not like regular American football. And by football, I mean, I don't mean soccer. I mean, football in the American way. So he does flag football, which is pretty much similar to American football, but you've got these little flags hanging down. And instead of tackling someone, you remove the flags, right? So just explaining that for folks that don't have a visual. Actually, my dad, I took him to a couple games and he was like, oh, okay, now I understand. He's not playing American football. So no, he's playing flag football. So he's been doing this for about 3 years. His league is doing great. I love that it's both boys and girls playing together in the teams. It's mixed. And flag football has actually just become an Olympic sport for the 2028 Summer Olympics, alongside cricket and some other sports. So you're going to start to see, sports evolving and changing super fast, especially with younger generations. You already have, like I mentioned to you, have NFL players saying they want to go to the Olympics and play flag football because that's American football isn't necessarily Olympic sport. So lots of changes there happening with sports, and this led us down to look at what's happening with sports and exercise in the technology space. Right, a lot of stuff happening, a lot of changes, but we came across news that Zumba, the exercise, the dance, is coming to virtual reality. And we had a little interesting discussion in our Slack channel about that. Lee, are you gonna Zumba in VR?
I don't Zumba in real life. Probably not.
Do you work out in virtual reality?
I work in virtual reality.
Okay.
No, I have. It's not my medium of choice. I know some people absolutely love it. They get really into it. It's one of those things where I kind of like keep thinking I want to do it. But I don't know. I my big gripe with working out in VR is that they keep trying to tie now there are some games some workout games that this does not apply to. So I'm not calling the whole industry as a whole out on this, but by and large, a lot of the workout apps are all this subscription based. Like they're trying to reinvent Peloton over here. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if it's there for the subscription model quite yet. I think that the headsets have to, some changes in hardware still have to occur. I think for it to become more plausible. It's definitely closer now than it ever has been before. We have better ventilation. The lenses don't fog up. You can get people who do work out in it typically will change out the face interface for something that can like deal with sweat, which is probably the smart thing to do by and large. But I don't know. I got into the concept of it early when a company called Box VR came out. They're now Fit VR, which is the company that's doing the Zumba stuff that you're talking about now. And I don't know. I kind of have a little beef with them a little bit. I mean, I forgive them. It's fine. But I was in that like early adopter phase where it's like, yeah, I paid full price for the application. They're like, and JK, we're going to go to subscription based. And that caused a whole kerfuffle online and people got really upset. And granted, we're talking about like maybe 1,000 people, right? Like, cause like, it's not like it had a massive adoption out the gate. And I'm in the boat of, if you have a small early adopter group, you should phone them in.
Yeah. You just grandfather them in. Yeah. Like I agree with you.
And that didn't happen. So I'm just kind of like, I'm a little salty about that. I don't know. But I will say like between them and like, I think the stuff that Supernatural's doing is also really good. I think Supernatural, and they did it right? They came out of the gate saying, we're going to do a subscription-based model. Here's what it is. If that's for you, then this is what we're doing. I'm cool with that. There was no like turnaround of the tables here.
Yeah.
And I think Supernatural's work, from what I saw, if people paid really close attention to the Meta Connect, there were, and it's not out yet, and I can't say any more of this. Is you have to go back and watch the Meta Connect and really pay attention.
Easter eggs.
There's there's an Easter egg in that Connect that I picked up on where there's an augmented reality image on a wall in their presentation when they're like explaining augmented reality in the Quest 3, that is definitely Supernatural because it has the Supernatural logo at the bottom corner. I don't know what it does. I don't know what it's doing there. I don't know what it means, but one can logically conclude that they're going to start leveraging augmented reality very heavily in your workout programs with the new Quest 3. So we'll see. So I've tried working out in VR. Like I enjoy it. I haven't done Zumba. I'm going to try it out and see, I'll see how that goes because I do love Zumba. But we'll see. I have friends though, like Leslie Shannon from Nokia, who loves working out in virtual reality. I think sometimes she travels with her VR headset. For me, it's a VR headset or a pair of shoes. So right now I'm going for the shoes, to be honest, because there's usually a gym in every hotel. So I'm good. But yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously sports working out is one of the big use cases potentially for this type of technology. And it's one that, you've seen on stage and a lot of different presentations. So what would it take for it to be like, I prefer this over the gym for you?
It's got to be smaller. Like it's got to be more lightweight. It literally, I can just put it in my purse. And I could put it in my purse, but I already have a lot of stuff in my purse. I've got to take the, laptop. I've got to take the chargers. Got to take all this stuff, right? So yeah, once it's like super easy to just like put it in the bag and just go, boom. Like of course I'm going to use it. So yeah. I don't know.
It's not a software feature that you're missing then.
No, it's more like it's got to be easy. Especially I travel so much that I'm usually doing carry-on. So like space is a premium, right? It's at a premium. So if I've got, 3 days of work and I've got different events, like I got to just fit so much into that carry-on. So I think that is for me kind of what I'm waiting for is something that's a little bit smaller, not as heavy. I mean, it's not as heavy obviously now. Like it's gotten a lot better, but I still need that space. I still need a little bit more space. So we'll see. So anyway, working out in virtual reality, fad or future?
Tricky. I think for some future, but it is, I think right now a little bit of a fad.
I'm with you on this one. A little bit. I mean, I love Zumba, don't get me wrong. And I know a lot of people work out in VR. It just needs to get better in some ways. And I feel like,
Now, there's a lot of people who consider a game like Beat Saber,
That's
which
true.
is a rhythm-based game, as part of their workout regimen, and it can do quite a bit. I mean, you're doing squats, you're doing arm movements. People are attaching weights to their controllers to give them resistance. So, in that case, I think people will continue to do that. Right? That game's not going away anywhere. But
so let's say it's a little bit of both.
I think it's a little bit of both columns.
Yeah, one foot in each fad future here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to phone that answer.
So there we go. We'll be safe. We'll be safe and say one of each. We're going to go to break. We're going to come back with an amazing interview with Pico Velásquez. She's an amazing, amazing computational architect that is doing a great work when it comes to VR, AR, spatial computing, immersive experiences. She's just fantastic to talk to. It's like a little bit of a longer interview, but just a very interesting perspective on architecture, design, and where this is all going and how physical and virtual converge. So we're going to go to break. I'm going to go relax, de-stress, and we'll be back after the interview.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bullspend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
All right. Today I'm joined by Pico Velásquez. Pico, welcome to Tech Magic.
Hi. Thank you, Cathy, for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you here. I'm a big fan of the work that you do. I want, for a lot of people do know you, especially in the architecture and design space and XR space. But for those that don't know, can you provide some insights into your background and your journey into the world of the metaverse? Any highlights along the way? So would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So, like you mentioned, I'm an architect. So I started off with traditional architecture, then going into computational design, which is data-driven architecture, parametric architecture, which was a big movement that was happening around the time that I was studying. I did architecture and mathematics, then, like I said, computational design at Harvard, very specifically oriented around complex geometry, sensors, activations that had to do with I think that's the connecting of the physical and the virtual, of physical activations that could enhance or distort or change digital content or certain structural, different frameworks that could be adapted given this data frameworks. And then the last part was sustainability, which had a lot to do with computational fluid dynamics and energy consumptions, and just understanding the space and how an architecture building or city behaves in context of the environment and its sustainability perspective. So that's how I got started. I went then into multimedia, which is the connection of physical and virtual through projection mapping, phone integrations, screens, etc. A lot of great projects led me to that. So some of the biggest projects I've worked on has been the Google headquarters with Bjarke Ingels Group, which recently got built, which is very exciting to see like how I was part of like some of the initial concepts up to design development of the canopy of that structure, which had a lot of sustainability components involved. And then the Hard Rock Casino and Hotel, the Ombia Theater project that I did for Samsung Social Galaxy with Kenzo Digital also was a lot of like physical architecture with interactivity, like multimedia with projection mapping. The Hard Rock Casino Hotel has water, which is also integrated with data, which is super cool, and a lot of like lighting effects that were done by focus lighting that is in conjunction with the music that plays in the space, and just like a lot of cool stuff about thinking about the experience and this like combination of experience. And it's only been like more recently in the past 3 years or so that I started delving more into these virtual worlds and these virtual capabilities and understanding like beyond the design of a space, like what does it mean? Like when you're designing a game, because I was part of the creative director of a video game called Super Forest, which was very particular, and I'll explain a little bit more further about that game of how that helps like integrate physical and virtual. But you start understanding that it's not just about designing a space as you do in architecture. It is a lot about like the architectural component, how people behave inside of this space, but the one-on-one interactions with that environment inside of virtual gaming has a lot more intricacies than the physical one. So it's like a lot of congruencies and a lot of discongruencies that I had to learn, which are really fun. And then I think just like you, I'm a fan of emerging technologies and how this fits into the space that we conduct, whether that's brand experiences, designing buildings or cities of the future, and then going into like infrastructure and systems. But everything from spatial computing to blockchain, Web3, which is a big movement a couple of years ago that we saw how that how that moved a lot of different industries in some positive and negative ways, of course. And then AI, which is like the hot topic right now, of how AI is definitely gonna change the landscape for all of us, including architecture and urban design.
And I love the work you do, because I feel like you're this new breed of architect that is encompassing both physical and virtual, and like you said, computational, but also sensory. Like it's so many multifaceted things that you do as an architect, not just one thing. So absolutely love that. I want to talk a little bit about these virtual worlds, right? Mm-hmm. And certain topics, right? In your opinion, does the original vision for the metaverse still align with current developments? And what are some of the most prevalent misconceptions surrounding the concept, which is a very heated debate, obviously?
Yeah.
Would love your opinion on it.
Yeah. And I think mostly because we saw such a huge rise of the metaverse, or the concept of the metaverse coming from Meta, so that a couple of years ago, like impacted a lot of different companies, both like technology, but also just like programmatic companies, like whether you work in health or in education, like you're seeing how that's potentially going to affect what it is that you're building or the services that you're providing. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions for sure. I would say I would first like to explain like how it came to be, because I think that a lot of people just like jump into like the metaverse, like where did this come from? Like, does this come out of video games, or like what is the essence of it? And I think the most important thing is to understand that it's all about communication, like for culture and economy. It's like communication, transactions. And this is like what we're looking for with everything that we do. It's like, what is it, whether your company or your brand is in fashion, or it's in health, or like I said, education, or maybe like even like an NGO, environmental impact, you're looking for ways to communicate with your public and to best display what it is that the services that you provide, and better provide services for them as well too, right? So during COVID, that we were all cooped up in our homes, all the physical activities, like there were so many restraints into like our connection into our activities, that we saw, or like we witnessed this like huge activation of the virtual worlds, right? And a lot of virtual games like Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft started going from just like interactions and gamification to hosting more like traditional social programming, from concerts, meetups, even schools. I remember like Roblox having like some different courses of schools across the
graduations. My daughter had her graduation in like Minecraft. It was fantastic. That was the only way they could be together at that moment. So.
Yeah. So it's thinking about like, it's not here to actually replace, because I think that one of the misconceptions is like this medium is here to replace, and it falls a lot into Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, which is like about escapism and like not being, I guess like not being okay with the physical world, that you have to create this virtual, almost like fantastic reality that ends up mirroring a lot of the physical problems as well, and with hackers and like all this chaotic environment that ends up being dystopic. But in reality, it's about thinking of like what are the core things that we need as humanity and the planet, right? Like what are the services, like what are the connections, like what are the things that we need as humans, and therefore how are we using technology and the metaverse and spatial computing and these new environments to enhance that. So I think that just to like summarize a little bit there, a lot of like I guess like wrong turns happened in the beginning of the metaverse. There were some very interesting things that were happening with concerts inside of Fortnite, mostly, right, drawing tens, if not hundreds of millions of fans into the same place. This definitely started changing the business model in different ways in which artists and brands could access their audience, right? Thinking about like this like multimedia strategy rather than only relying on physical assets, which is kind of the same way as how e-commerce has taken traditional stores into something that has global access. And I think all of that has been like incredibly powerful. And we'll definitely talk more in detail of this, like as I go through some examples. But I think some of the things that I kind of fell a trap to was like there was an economic trap, right, of this like virtual selling, virtual trading. Too much of like this casino incentives, when in fact it wasn't providing much value other than just like the trading itself, which at the long term doesn't end up being sustainable. And that's why most of the metaverses that started off that way eventually crashed. And it's too much what we would call a commodities over community. So it's like, selling commodities and not really caring about what the value add is for the audience or for the customers. Yeah.
And to that point, because I want to get to the rest of the questions as well, is like, especially getting into some of the work that you've done in Future of Cities, right? And development of how our future, how do we start to design the cities of the future, but also the development of how cities that already exist are going to develop. So how do you see emerging technologies like, spatial computing or blockchain or brain computer interfaces or AI, which is the talk of the town, right? How do you see them playing a pivotal role in shaping the user experience or the living experience in the future development of cities? And this is something that I know you're very passionate about and you do tons of work around the world in.
Yeah, so I think, this is fascinating and also incredibly complex, right? Because when we think about cities, it takes on like a lot of different hierarchies of what a city is. There is the built environment, there is the infrastructural, there's also the governments and the community, there's the transactions and everything that has to do with the monetary aspect of how things move inside of a city. And then there's the culture, the art, like the things that end up being like almost like a consequence of everything that has been physically built. And in this case, physically and virtually built. So I would say that in a way, I think a lot of times, like when we think about like the core value that things bring, it's never completely reinventing, but it's also not like a small step from the existing technology either, right? Because like brain computer interface, like what can we compare that to? But at the same time, we can kind of compare it to like how we click on a screen and maybe having AI having like these optimized or more like personalized data that is coming out of it, that instead of it going through your mind to your hands to your computer, it's going directly from your brain to the computer, right? So it's like shortening or optimizing some of these processes. So I think that when we think about technology in that way, so spatial computing, or what we call AR, VR, everyone's obviously aware of the differences between these two, but I think this sense of like three-dimensional virtual reality is something that we haven't explored as much, even if Oculus made a very big hit and now Apple as well is doing so. It's something that we don't have completely integrated in our systems because we're still like very locked down to like a two-dimensional phone or a two-dimensional laptop, right? So there's something super interesting about like the non-architects, because as an architect and designer, you get used to working in these three-dimensional worlds, but to have access to like, what does it mean to have like these three-dimensional experiences, right? So, and then of course, AI, you can think about everything from like chatbots to energy optimization to like mobility and how that's going to be tracked. Like you can think of AI just being able to optimize those processes. So I would say in future of cities, I would categorize it as like smart infrastructure and urban planning. Like, how are we going to be using these as like visualization tools, but also like predictive tools. So that's where like digital twins and simulation plays a big role. The predictive analysis and data-driven decision making falls a lot into that space. Smart mobility is also like a very big one inside of infrastructure, of course. Then when it comes to like the buildings, or like how we actually build spaces within an urban landscape, from property sales to management, I think blockchain is going to play like a very important role into how all of that is being streamlined. And then very importantly, I would say energy efficiency and sustainability. Like, how are we going to be able to like fully optimize energy consumption, but also just like supply chain analytics, I think, is also very important when it comes to energy consumption, because we're not taking into account like the full carbon footprint of the whole process, right? And right now, if we were to map the entire world and see how it's operating, it's completely inefficient. Like, we're seeing things like, including like I'm living like in LA, but like I visit my parents a lot in Colombia, and when I come here, like I see like some of the so many products that go out to come back in, that are being like the original product is being here, it goes out, it ends up being packaged somewhere else, and then eventually like a couple of weeks and 3 countries later it returns to the country, right? So there's something like completely inefficient about these processes right now that I think like all of these like visualization optimization tools will be great. And then we've talked about this too, but I think that engagement of citizens in governance, like all of this of like how DAOs are going to play a role into the cities of the future, is going to be incredible, right? Because it's really like democratizing the space in a lot of different ways. And then the last one I would say, just like security and privacy, transparency, that also comes a lot with both blockchain and AI, which is going to be very fundamental to how we build the future of cities.
Indeed. I mean, wow, that was so much. I loved it though. That was great. So when you think about what are the fundamental advantages, of integrating our physical and virtual spaces? How does that concept differ from, existing technologies or platforms? Let's talk a little bit of what you see that, because you are kind of at that, in the middle of that, right? Being an architect and also understanding XR and everything. You're in this really interesting kind of, bird's eye view of sorts. So
yeah, and I think like even how the question is framed, like I think most people think about the metaverse as just like a virtual space, right? They're not really thinking about like this integration with the physical world, which I think is the most important part, right? That we're supposed to integrate but expand, right? It's not about creating something that we want to escape from, because again, that's kind of what we want to avoid. We want to be able to improve this world, but also be able to have access to more content, more community, etc.
And I always say like the physical world is part of the metaverse. It just hasn't been fully enabled. So I love that we both align on that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that I would break it down into what would be experience. Like, what is the experience, whether it's brand experience, or it's a building, or it's a city, like what is the experience? Community, which is about how individuals interact within those experiences. Economy, which is basically the transactions that happen within that community. And then impact. I always love talking about impact, social, environmental, like anything impact that you can imagine, because if we're not thinking about this consistently through our work, whether implicitly or explicitly, it just doesn't get done, right? And I think that just the same way that we want to integrate the physical into the virtual, because we don't want to leave it behind. If we don't integrate impact into the daily practices and the communities and the companies that we build, then it's going to get left behind as well. And it shouldn't be treated just like as something philanthropic that happens at the end, but it should definitely be something that's happening at the same time. Yeah.
And what are some examples? Like, give some people examples of this convergence.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll walk you through 3 examples. One that's entertainment, talking about like a virtual physical concert. Another one that is going to be education. And then another one that's going to be environmental impact. So you can kind of see like across industries, like how this plays out. So just like in super quick summary, virtual concert happening physical at the same time. So whether it's Lady Gaga or it's Taylor Swift, people want to see them live, right? Like once you connect with an artist, you want to see them live. And you want to have also not just the experience of being able to see them, to listen to them, to be part of the world that they're creating on their stages, but you also want to be part of the community and hear the cheers and be, coming together to actually get the excitement of being in a concert or any of these like musical experiences. But what happens is that any of these concerts that happen physically are capped by the amount of people that fit inside of a stadium, right? And how many days can the artist tour, and how many years will this artist tour? So eventually they end up being capped to maybe 1 million, maximum 2 million per tour of fans that they get to see. And when you talk about like some of these big artists that have 40 to, I think Taylor Swift has over 200 million followers, you're ending up with less than 1% of their audience reach, which is very unfavorable, right? So it's like, unless you get to like clone her, which was not happening anytime soon, that we know of, like the Dolly of of Taylor Swift.
Who knows, right? Who knows?
We just have her in every city. Then another way to do this is to actually think about the concert being simultaneously happening in both a physical and virtual environment, where the people that got the opportunity to access to the physical because of like cost constraints and location constraints, etc., will attend. But then the ones that don't also get somewhat of an experience that in some way could be more exciting than the physical one, because you can create a lot of things in the virtual world that you can't in the physical. So I think that's a great example that also is very favorable for the artist as well. Audience reach, of course, brings a lot of different advantages, like for them to like being able to expand their revenue streams. Artists in a way like have also gone through this transition of like making their money through album sales, through that not making much money through all these platforms like audio platforms, to then having to go through concerts and then going to even have brands to represent their brand, so like makeup brands or etc. So there's something like very, very beautiful about thinking that these virtual experiences are not just a website. It's something that goes beyond that. It's a space that allows people to actually interact in them and allows to have like the whole ecosystem that these artists represent, right? So it's their music, it's their artistry, it's the brands that they build, it's the endorsements that they have, it's also their NGO and the impact that they're doing through. I think a lot of artists are like very plugged into environmentalism, mental health. Like you'll see like a lot of the great things that they care about being represented through the philanthropical efforts that they do as well. So there's something really cool about having that integrated. So that's the example of entertainment and artists. For education, I think for education, like I think that the biggest thing to note is that, I don't know if people are aware of this, but between like what we call children, that is like below 16 years old, there's close to 2 billion children in the world right now. It's like 1.9 billion children in the world. So you can imagine how many of these are actually getting the proper educations and which are not, right? And when it comes to like designing education, like how much is it prevalent to have physical education versus virtual education that could be highly curated, that could have, AI integration for tutoring and for a lot of like personalized content, etc. But right now, because it's either one or, you go to a physical school or you're basically uneducated and the savvy jump on YouTube and do it and the others just don't, then there is this very strict divide about those who can actually get educated and those that don't, right? And I think that all of these like great technologies that are coming on board are just going to extend the capabilities of educating. In terms of the experience, you can imagine VR and AR being a much cooler experience than a book or having to hear someone. And then AI just giving you like all of this like personalization, like we said, that will help you, learn at your pace and your interest, etc. So if this could be something that is somewhat free, like Khan Academy has done and different companies have done in so long, and then the people that attend physical schools, pay for the physical access and, but then they could maybe subsidize the virtual one for the others. There's something that I think is worth specking out as to like how we can actually distribute education in a more homogeneous way that gives access to everyone with good content and with like
more equitable, more accessible. Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely agree.
Yeah, and then the last one, social environmental impact. I worked on two, like one that is current right now and one that I worked 4 years ago at this point, which I think like really stroke a chord there. The first one was Super Forest, which is a video game. Multiplayer video game, so it's almost like a Sim City, but instead of building cities, you're building forests, like these magical forest environments. There are like spirit animals and like all these cool things happening in there. but every tree that was planted virtually was planted in real life. And this is with NGO partnerships around the world. So again, like when you talk about numbers and you think that, I think over 3 billion people play video games right now. Imagine if 3 billion people.
So one in three. One in three, are consider themselves gamers, which is an amazing number.
So imagine like each of these planting one tree a year. Like we'd already be going through like the carbon offset in a much more efficient way than anything else. So it'd be like fun. It would also bring a lot of like awareness to like positive awareness, right? Because I don't think awareness has to necessarily be negative, but positive awareness of climate change and all the different impact that we're doing on the planet that isn't favorable, and action. Most people feel like they don't know how to act on the things that they want to see in the world because, originally it was more like government based. I think now there's a lot more. You see that private companies are doing a lot more, providing more services that have impact. So it's not just the governments alone. But I think if kids were playing, knowing that they're feeding people in populations that are under development, or they're helping clean the ocean, or they're helping reforest the planet just by playing, which they're already going to be playing, then what is this like huger benefit that can come not only in the impact, but in the future consciousness of the society that we're building? So I think there's something very, very, very positive there. And then the project that I'm working right now, which is called Sea Trust, I can't speak much of it, but it is along the lines of land conservation done through fractionalized ownership of physical land. So it's like, how can everyone participate in the land conservation globally? But actually not just like through like an NGO or like, a philanthropic effort, but being able to have stake in the land and ownership of the land, which will accumulate over time. And at the end, it ends up being a very positive investment. So I think there's just like so many cool things that could be done, with examples that could provide frameworks for future buildings as well.
That's fantastic. And I think a lot of companies and brands can learn from some of those examples and some of the ones that you're going to be working on that we'll learn more about in the future. So I kind of want to ask you, like towards the end now, what emerging tech, what advancements are you most excited about when you look towards the future? Like, what are you really excited about right now? What's the magic technology that you're kind of like excited about?
I would say more than the technology per se, because I think that technology definitely advances over the years, over the centuries. And I'm excited about all of it. Brain computer.
I'm with you.
Haptics, like being. I think all of these things could be so intricate and so interesting. With haptics, it makes me think a lot about. There's a concept that I like to talk about, which is like a synesthesia of data, of like how we can switch senses one thing to another. Like, could movement turn into sound? Could touch turn into taste? Like being able to like become more synesthesic into like how we experience the world, both physically and virtually. I definitely like from a creative standpoint, that's one of the things that I am most excited about expression and creating. I would say also user-generated content and how AI is playing a role in that is definitely very exciting for me, because whether it's building a physical building or building it in Roblox, I think for so long, the hierarchy of how things got built was too constrained for the professionals, for the experts, for whoever already had built 7 buildings can finally do the first museum in their life, right? And being able to change this into something that we have very easy tools to produce the content or produce the experiences that, if they gain traction and if they build the community around it, they could actually get built in real life. That's completely like flipping over the hierarchy structure that we have right now. And it's going to give opportunities to so many people to have their voice heard and have like a lot more options into the content that's being created. I think those are the things that
that's fantastic.
Excite me. And back to like, I would say like a combination of user generated content and this like more democratized governance. There is this sense of like an unprecedented opportunity that we have in the metaverse that's then going to translate in the physical world, that everyone can actually play a role. That it's not just about, again, the big companies or the expert, that everyone in some way can play a role in shaping it. And when everyone feels empowered into shaping the future, I think that's when a better future gets built.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure plenty of people are listening to this and like, how do I get in contact with this woman? So where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, so my name is Pico Velásquez. My Instagram is Pico Velásquez. My LinkedIn is Pico Velásquez. My private website, which is like the work that I've done so far as an architect and as a director, is pii.co, like Pico with double I. And then my latest company, which is the one that's working mostly with blockchain, like Web3, blockchain and AI to integrate physical and virtual, it's called VIRA, VIRRA.io.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, Pico, thanks for bringing your magic to Tech Magic.
No, thank you so much, Cathy, for having me.
All right. So that was a great interview with Pico Velásquez. She's fantastic, extremely knowledgeable, creative person. I just think everyone should keep their eyes on what she's doing. So yeah, Lee, okay. Now that we've listened to that interview and de-stressed, what do you think about, design, architecture, technology? Any thoughts?
I mean, architecture to me and in industrial design specifically has always been a major use case for spatial computing in general. It's an area that I think those who are in the know that like that's where a big chunk of the focus is for not only just like new hardware, but spatial computing and sensors in general. I think this is the home that Magic Leap found a really comfortable place in as well. And it's only going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree. AEC is one of the verticals, architecture, engineering, design, that I was kind of a part of when I was at Magic Leap, and definitely very, very strong vertical. So now we're going to have Lily, our amazing producer, Lily Snyder, join us for Dispatch from the Fringe. And since we'll be talking about VR for working out, she's going to tell us how virtual reality is actually going to the International Space Station, and it's finding a house in space. It's being used in space with astronauts. So Lily, welcome to the show.
Hi, Cathy and Lee. Happy to be back on the pod.
So tell us a little bit about Dispatch from the Fringe and what's going on with virtual reality in space.
In this week's Dispatch from the Fringe, the HTC Vive 3 is planned to launch into space on November 7th. The HTC Vive is a virtual reality headset, and it's scheduled to go on a NASA resupply to the International Space Station. It's on a mission to improve astronauts' mental stress from things like lack of privacy, high and variable workloads, and separation from loved ones. Virtual reality isn't new to NASA or space, though. In the 1980s, work at NASA's Amex Research Center impacted technology that led to Nintendo's Power Glove. And in 2015, NASA and Microsoft co-developed HoloLens software so that ground-based crew could see what astronauts see and mark things off in their field of view. Plus, virtual reality has been used for training on the ground. What makes this different is that the HTC adjusted for a spatial orientation problem in the software. So when we create our virtual reality boundaries here on Earth, we usually draw markers on the floor. But that's difficult to do when you're floating in zero gravity in a space station. So HTC had to make up for that problem by using one of the controllers as the tracker instead of the floor. So this is just a test run for the HTC Vive 3 and its mental health software called XR Health. And the company hopes that it will just be the beginning of more to come and for astronauts to be able to talk to friends and family back on Earth. Back to you, Cathy and Lee.
All right, that was fascinating, Lily. I mean, I have so many questions about about how it's all going to work out. Are we going to take it to the moon? Is it going to go to Mars? I'm sure it will. But Lee, would you use, if you were an astronaut, would you use virtual reality?
I think there's a use case there that makes a lot of sense. The part that is brought up in many of the articles is the motion sickness due to weightlessness and getting disoriented. And there's a solution for it, but I can't wrap my head around how that works. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. Let me mind you, I'm not smart enough to know why that works, but I would have to try it before it made a whole lot of sense of like, oh, this is how we solved that issue. So I don't know. I'm not a heights guy, so getting me into space is probably your bigger hurdle than putting me in a headset.
You in VR in space. I was actually part of really early on some conversations about VR in space, or really early on. So, I love space. It's one of the things I keep tabs on for sure. So anyway, fascinating dispatch from the Fringe. Okay, Lee, another great week in the books.
Another one in the can.
Yeah, another great week. So thank you for joining me. And I just want to say thanks to everyone that's listening to the podcast. Give us some reviews. We need more reviews. We need more folks, sharing the podcast. It's been very well received. We're starting to look really good in some charts. So we're really excited. Thanks to everyone that's listening to Tech Magic. And, please subscribe, leave us reviews, and we'll be back next week for some more magic. Come for the tech and stay for the magic. What do you think of that tagline, Lee?
I love it. Sure.
There you go.
Why not? Print it.
Yes, there we go. We'll get t-shirts. Come for the tech, stay for the magic. But thank you to everyone that's listened, and we'll be back next week.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Zero. The accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.